Today I'm going to be talking about why I'm starting to turn on Donald Trump and reasons why. Primarily it has to do with Iran, but let me explain. Firstly, I'm going to start off by talking about what the appeal of Trump was originally, what I liked about him in 2016. Trump Mark II is not the same as Trump in his first presidency in terms of style and substance. By how things have gone, this is not the same person. This is not what I had in mind when I had a soft support for Donald Trump. And this support only came after the assassination attempt. But what the far left never really understood is that Trump in his first term was actually the more moderate candidate. Rhetorically, he did say some extreme things, but if you look at how he governed in the first term, in the end, it was not actually that bad. He didn't end up deporting all these Mexicans like the left said he would. I think his first term presidency was actually one of the best presidencies America has had in the modern era. The appeal of Trump, to me, originally, was the promise of no new wars. It's of restoring the Rust Belt. That's quite a romantic idea. It sounds good. To try and bring back jobs, high-value manufacturing jobs, back to the Rust Belt areas of America and to make America a manufacturing powerhouse is actually quite an appealing idea. And he also wasn't crazy about social issues in the same way that a lot of Republicans tend to be. Like, he really never had a strong stance on abortion or gay rights. So in a way, to me, he was kind of a soft social liberal. So what the far left never understood, but what I found appealing about Trump in his first term and when he first ran for the presidency was his moderate appeal. But I no longer really believe that he has that. A lot of what he did in his first term was actually not that bad for a modern American president. There's certainly been a lot worse presidencies. I think the Trump tax cuts in 2017 were actually quite a good thing. It was able to starve off a recession in America because America has a normal 8-year economic cycle. Things like cutting the corporate tax rate in America was quite a good thing. It started to boost up the stock market. Took care of some other issues like trying to bring back offshore capital that major companies had in overseas bank accounts and tried to get it spent in America, and that was not a bad policy. You also have attempts at diplomacy with countries like North Korea after he used the madman theory to try and pressure them. And you also had quite a reasonable approach to things like mining and oil drilling in America during his first term. A lot of that was started in the early 2000s / the Obama era, but he was able to continue it and boost it. First term of Trump was actually pretty socially moderate for a Republican. The economy was doing quite good. The stock market was starting to take off. He was able to avoid a recession. He didn't pull all these Mexicans like was promised. And you have attempts at diplomacy and not starting any new wars. But now come the second presidency of Trump, and it didn't start out that great, if I'm honest. It was Liberation Day, which was quite stupid in the end. His presidency is blatantly way more corrupt. Now, these are all things that the left-wing were rightfully criticised for, but we didn't vote for it because we wanted right-wing corruption. We voted for it because we wanted an end to corruption. You have things like the jingoism over Greenland, the alienation of Canada. These are not things that we found appealing about Trump, and it's not what he ran on. Tariffs, yes, but the rest of it, no. His second term presidency hasn't been that great, but he's only made it worse. And now he has really made a blunder in Iran. And it's hard not to find his attitude and response about it to be quite disgusting. It's not what we wanted when we supported Trump. We liked Trump because he wasn't part of the two-party system. He wasn't a Bush. He wasn't a Clinton. He was supposed to be an outsider. But Trump has only proven that he's in bed like the rest of them are. And it's just disappointing. In the end, would we have been any worse off if Biden had a second term or if Kamala had her first term? Would it really be that bad? When it comes to Venezuela, I thought the Venezuela operation was okay. I think that did turn out to be okay. I thought that Trump succeeding in Venezuela would give him a big head, and then you think, oh, I can take on any other country, because Venezuela was a walk in the park. The reason why Bush and Obama failed with their wars was just because it's the wrong person. And I'm Trump, I'm the right person. Blowing that out of the water by going into Iran and making a massive cock-up. I thought Venezuela would actually be okay. All things being equal, I thought in the long term that would be a good thing. all things being equal at the time, less than 2 months later, and it's not going to be better long term. In fact, Trump now, with the Iran operation, has done a lot of damage. He's inflicted a lot of pain, economic pain, on the middle working classes that supported him. The things that Biden was criticised for, Bidenflation, well, we've just had it now, Trumpflation. And now you have to look at the outcomes of what his second presidency is actually achieving. Is it good for America? No, I believe no. I believe that Trump, all things being considered, is a net negative. Even though he might have removed DEI, does DEI really matter when the price of fuel has doubled? I'd rather have DEI and cheaper fuel. What is he trying to achieve with his way of doing diplomacy by alienating countries like Canada, by pushing countries like Australia and New Zealand, where I'm from, into the hands of China even more, his geopolitical foe? Because China doesn't have any problems reneging on its trade agreements. They don't make agreements only to change the terms of them, in the same way that Trump has, like with the USMCA trade agreement that was supposed to replace NAFTA. Trying to think about the net measure on success of whether or not this is a good thing. And no, I think it's massively damaging to the right wing, the centre right wing. Trump is not a good president. But this is also something that the far left also struggles to understand about Trump, is that a lot of things are just done by decree. It's not actually legislation that Trump has passed. He has not permanently altered the state of America. A lot of it is just crappy executive orders that can be easily overturned, like in the same way that he did with Biden's executive orders. The most damaging thing about Trump is the loss of investor confidence and trust in America. And there's also the diplomatic factor as well, the diplomatic loss of confidence. Oh, and let's not even talk about Epstein and how much of a disgrace that whole deal has ended up being. It's embarrassing. But truth being told, if you look at the Greater MAGA movement, the whole thing is toxic anyway. The fan base largely is quite a toxic fan base. A lot of them are clowns, idiots. And ultimately, Trumpism isn't going to survive. The state of America has not been radically altered, like the left will have you believe. But that also means he hasn't made any positive changes if he set out to make. They can be easily overturned. If you make the same kind of argument like Trump has, saying that things were okay in 2020, and then 2021 comes along, oh, America is ruined, oh, 2021, oh, America is back. It shouldn't be that easy. There should be some kind of long-lasting impact beyond your presidency. It shouldn't just require one person to be in charge for things to be right in America. So that goes to show how ineffective he is, even by his own words. I'm forced to think about my own position and what I believe in and what I think is best for society. And I'm on the centre right. I'm socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I believe that you should look after the debt, and the government should be out of the way of lives of people, and business should be largely easy to conduct, and people should be able to go about their affairs. And I believe that Trump has just failed on those objectives, which are my principles, which I hold true. And he's not a good representative or advocate for those beliefs. If anything, by Trump being so toxic, you risk the left wing getting elected and pushing back those beliefs. Then ultimately the greater culture changes and shifts away from individuality towards collectivism, and then you have greater problems, and that's the risk I fear. Sometimes you have to give and take and go for the middle position. That's just politics and life. And I believe that Trump has gone so far extreme, not even with individualism, but just social conservatism. It's going to affect the greater centre-right, do a lot of damage overall. So you must also think about the longevity and what that's going to mean for America long term. Ultimately, Trumpism and MAGA have no longevity to them. They are going to fracture, they're going to balkanise. It's not going to exist after Trump is gone. The movement is going to splinter into a billion irrelevant pieces with a lot of infighting. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. I say they deserve it. We've given them a decent chance, and this is what they've done to us. The Iran thing is absolutely terrible. We would have no problems criticising George Bush over this, and principally I have no problem criticising Trump for being effectively the same. I mean, Trump is part of the establishment anyway, so what do I care? He's not an outsider. But I think it's massively damaging, and I'm quite angry at the high energy prices. It's economically damaging. We're in a massive recession now. It's just not yet reflected in the statistics. You don't have an energy spike like this without it having massive economic ramifications. It's not just 4% CPI inflation. Look at the energy crisis in Europe in 2022. When Ukraine and Russia went to war, they were reporting 15% CPI in some European countries, Western European countries, off the backs of high energy prices. And we've just had a massive energy price spike in the same way. And this is going to go on for a lot longer, and it's actually going to be a lot worse for the West, because now Iran, a country which they have not actually been able to do a regime change in, now has some legitimacy. And now the common Western person is going to suffer when there are now random terrorist attacks in the West over the next 2 years after this, in retaliation for what America has done this year. So now the average person is going to be less safe. They're paying an insane amount for energy prices, and that's not going to significantly go down for years now, if at all. And ultimately, one person is culpable for this, and it's Donald Trump. But this is only my opinion, and I'm just trying to get my thoughts out there so a dialogue can begin. I was a Trump supporter, but now, for the reasons that I've stated in this video, I can't stand him, and I can't wait for this presidency to end. And to the left wing, the mainstream media, Democrats, you're right. Kamala probably would have been better.